Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday the
Yo,
13th. Welcome to another Big Byte. And we're happy
thanks
to
for
see
reminding.
all seven of you here.
That's right. Friday the 13th. Only Rob would remind everybody of that. He reminded me earlier. It's good to be reminded that it's Friday the 13th. How is everybody?
It's a great day. It's a great day to celebrate.
I suppose
Good
you're right.
day.
All right, so I'm going to kick us off here from an article from the UX Collective about colorblind design, and this is using Among Us as a case study. Um, so the deal with Among Us, it's all about like deception and kind of pretending that you are who you aren't or you're not who you are, and it's kind of like what are those, like murder mystery kind of games where you're trying to pretend that you're innocent or deceive people that you're the killer when you're really not, etc. So born out of that premise of the game, people kind of start trolling their usernames. So like this yellow character will choose the name like blue, right? Or someone, right? So you're trying to call people out and you say, well, someone was in this room, and it almost ends up being like the who's on first kind of thing. Um, so as a result of that, the players start using the colors of the characters. So they say, okay, purple was in this room, yellow was in this room. But there's really no good colorblind support in the game. So that is starting to become an issue where they didn't necessarily think that that would ever happen, right? Because people would just use the names of the player, and people start trolling that. So colorblindness starts becoming an issue, and I think they're going to start trying to remedy it by using. Yeah, here you go. That's blue and that's pink and that's orange and brown. Like they name all of their characters different colors, and it starts becoming pretty difficult. They go through all the different types of color blindness and how it might look if someone has Dodo anomaly and are looking at the blues and the purples. So it's a really in-depth, very interesting article again on Among Us, which I think Debo you shared a couple of weeks ago. The influencer power of Among Us, and it's really taking off. But I think their perspective change is going to be using symbols. So they say, okay, yeah, circle was in this room and triangle was, etc. Might make more sense if you've seen the game played or have played it yourself. But yeah, colorblindness turns out being kind of an issue if you can't rely on text. So yeah, I have a couple shares here about just statistics and like interesting charts. And this was every state from 90 minutes after the poll closed until 3 days after the polls closed, and how the leads may have changed. Like you could see here, 90 minutes after the polls closed, they're both gaining ground. I think this is like the common votes, and then you get Biden here, and then in nearing the 3 day mark, you see Trump overtakes. I don't know what state that is per se. I'm sure I could do some sleuthing, but I just thought this was an interesting way. I'd never seen charts like this, kind of like a differential chart, to display this information. Obviously, very timely, topical information. This is a chart, land versus like people, right? So I'll full screen this. It's a very
Ooh.
interesting way to say there's really not. There's a lot of land that is designated red, right? Again, I'm not trying to get too political here, but you can see how overwhelmingly skewed it looks in this view, whereas in this view it seems different. It just tells a different story. It's just an interesting case study, a little visualization on, I don't know, bias, skew, data manipulation. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then that kind of got me going on Tableau's, on their website. They're doing actually like live data snapshots or dashboards of election things, approval ratings and stuff like that. And they're kind of just flexing their software in a very appropriate way to say, hey, here's what you can do with Tableau, and here's some free visualizations and some free dashboards that you can just play around with, click through. I clicked Ohio. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Yeah, so it takes you into like a more in-depth age breakdowns. So yeah, Tableau, it's pretty cool stuff. I'm sure a lot of us have used it, especially like, I'm sure Megan has used it a lot. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting that on their website, they're actually running actual case studies and actual data through their visualization software and presenting it live on their site.
That's awesome. That's really in depth.
Yeah, you can click for hours on this and just get tons of different information. It's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I got today.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thanks for playing.
Really good stuff. All right, who would like to share next?
I can go. Let's see. Hope this is the right screen. I did new glasses. I booked an eye appointment, but I just never know. So I just wanted to start us off with this little meme I found on Twitter. Just felt right in the moment. Especially, I had this. What I do is during the week when I'm browsing around, if I find something that's interesting that could be for Big Byte, I'll screenshot it on my phone, and then Friday morning I go through the last week's screenshots and like see what's in there. And this was something that I had saved, so why not? Used to start off with memes.
It's beautiful.
I appreciate this.
It's a work of art. I'm no art director, but this really speaks to me. The power of art. And on that note, I found this from this company, Safe Esteem, which kind of helps give you personal safety ratings in these different categories based on, your age and where you live. And so I really like the way that they sort of stepped you through this. So at first they're saying, you could select how nervous you feel about these things and like how you personally feel, is what you're nervous about. Or you could get the real numbers instead. So instead of kind of like your anxiety might be like, okay, well, I'm 73% worried about my health and the rest I don't really care about. So you get started, you select your age group, your gender, your city. Let's see.
This is beautiful UX.
And it tells you how worried you should actually be about things. So again, this wasn't meant to be depressing, but you can see here the trend in the last 7 days of how the numbers have changed. And this is, based on where we are in Monroe County. So this is talking about the COVID impact versus just regular disease here. And then they've got different pieces of information that you can scroll through on this little dashboard. But, even though health is still the biggest concern, there's still other concerns as well. So it just sort of puts into perspective, these things are always going on and we don't worry about them every day. You don't wake up every day like super anxious that you're going to get into, a motor vehicle road accident. But, the COVID risk is still only a little bit higher than that. So not to minimize it, but just to show your anxiety doesn't need to be so high. Follow safety protocols, but don't let something ruin your life and ruin your mental health. So this just kind of helps put things into perspective. It helps you feel more informed to make decisions based on your own health and safety. And I really like the way that this was that the data was presented, that was personalized, that was able to generate kind of all these charts on the fly based on who you are. This next site I found, we've shared similar things in the past where it's kind of like a smarter way to serve and create ads. And this one is specifically related to Facebook ads. So they're saying, there are these 4 big problems with Facebook ads and we solve all of them. And I don't know if that's true, but I think this is a really big trend that we're going to start seeing more and more of, that the sort of digital innovation within ad spaces and within media. So this problem one is that ads lose social proof when they're used anywhere else. If you have a really great ad that got a lot of engagement, you put that on Instagram, it's going to start fresh and people aren't going to know, there were so many, likes or reactions. So this is a normal Facebook ad, but this is one used by the service Uprive. So they're saying, when you create this ad spot, you can reuse it and it'll keep all of the reactions and the engagement it got. I don't know how this works, but it looks promising. It looks like something that makes sense to me. The second problem here is that split testing audiences causes overlap. So if you were to not use any external service to run a split test, you'd have to basically pick two different segments on your own and run the same ad or run different ads like overlapped on those segments. And so you kind of just get this disjointed number of people that someone may be seeing both ads or no ads, and there's overlaps. They're trying to say here, if you use our service, there's no overlap applied. Here, there's 95% overlap. So they go into some other problems as well, like the budget structure. And of course, these are nice graphs that make everything look like, why wouldn't you use the service? It makes a ton of sense. But it's just something interesting to keep in mind. How our ads are served and how our creative is being used can impact the user experience. So it's not just, did we write a good copy line? Did we pick the right image? But it's what images have these users seen before? And are they seeing it next to something that says 1 share or next to something that says 146 shares? And that all impacts how our work is being perceived. So it's something that we should probably all get a little smarter with. And the last thing I have is a bit more fun. It's a site called MyDeskTour.com. And it's just where people are sharing, what's your home desk setup, and you can click through, you can look through different images, and then it shows, like this one is called the I spent too much money on my home office. You can see, like, here's all of the different things that they purchased for their desk. And I thought that this was a nice share, as we've all just gotten that the $200 that we can use to be reimbursed for some home office equipment, that this might give you some inspiration for that. So a good site to peruse through for how goes your work from home setup.
That's going to be,
so that's all I've got.
That's dangerous. That's really dangerous, but really cool. I like it.
I really liked the UX on Safe Esteem. I thought that was a very well laid out, very easy to use web app.
Very, very
That's probably
much
why
so.
you shared it. So
yeah, it's one of those things that, like, as a consumer, you're like, I love this, and then as a developer, you're thinking, like, how would I possibly build this if someone asked me to make this tomorrow?
There were a couple sections in there that were a little tricky. A couple.
Welcome to challenge.
Awesome.
David,
All right. Thank
you
you
have
for the
anything?
shares. Mucho thanks. Wah!
All set?
Almost.
So-
Hold on. You got the... I don't know why Jake's screen is so tiny compared to others, but now we're good. Go ahead. Apologies.
Because I make it tiny.
Okay.
That helps me.
So I think I've shared Think with Google before. It's just a general website for Google Analytics, and they take like the latest data that they're getting from search and analytics and consolidating it into these helpful articles for marketers and for people who are interested in, like the latest trending stuff, latest trending stories. And I think this is a new thing that they've done, which is they've started doing data shorts, and these are like different stories that are drawn from the latest Google data. And what's interesting is they've taken sort of a format from Instagram stories and I think recently LinkedIn stories and Snapchat, and they've used that to make more like these short stories that are clickable. Like you can go through this timeline and just get these little pieces of information, which I think is like really how consumers are consuming like articles and information these days. So I think it's like an interesting pivot in how they share this data. And I think it's a really cool visualization of like these different stats and different data. And also the stories are super helpful too. There's a ton of different ones to check out, and I recommend when we link it out that you go look and sift through it. But they have stuff about diversity in the workplace. They talk about how language can be used to describe ourselves in evolving DEI programs. And then, they show these statistics. And I think from my perspective, when we're doing social posts and we're thinking about like how can we share information with people on our channels like Instagram. Is this like a format that we could replicate with information from like midweek mark or from like Big Byte? So that's something that I think is really interesting to look at and maybe consider doing in the future.
That's awesome. I really like the animations too. They're like subtle but very elegant. I don't know. It just has a really, really good feel to it. I like this a lot.
It's just a really smart way of, sharing information
Ah,
in a different way.
Yeah, I was just looking at Google Trends earlier today, and they take a lot of this data from Google Trends, I would imagine.
your screen keeps getting bigger and smaller for some reason. Every time you switch to a new page, it shrinks and then expands again. I'm gonna stop even trying to mess
Really?
with it. Apologies to everybody watching if you can't see it or if it's too gigantic.
It looks hilarious on the stream.
It's pretty great.
Oh my God. Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's obviously my fault and or Andy's fault for taking the day off. We'll just blame him because he can't stick up for himself.
Okay. And then one more thing I want to share from this website is this series that they're doing. It's a marketer's guide to machine learning fairness. And really it's taking a look at how they use machine learning when they're advertising to people and how we can consider making it more inclusive when we're advertising to these customers. Because as they say here, brands spend years and years earning customer trust. And, a single incident where like the machine learning bias undoes that work, it can be like really devastating. So here they're like trying to take different steps to help build customer confidence and marketer confidence that they're sharing the right ads with the right people. So in this article, they just talk about trying to understand how this bias is perceived. So they're talking to real life people, 44 to be exact, but just seeing like their personal experience with how they've seen ads and how it's affected them. And they're saying, it's not who I am. This isn't representing me. Like you're just advertising to a demographic, and that in like the age of like personalization, like to generalize like that can be really off-putting for a consumer who's looking or perceiving your brand. Just like this quote here, it's totally unfair. Not every woman's the same. So it's just really an interesting article and look into how machine learning currently is at and what they're doing to try and fix it. So definitely check this out because I think a really good point here is once the trust is lost, there's really no guarantee that they can get it back. So I think, from the Partners in Napier's perspective, we should be conscientious of that moving forward.
Very true. This is awesome. This is another really great site. I mean, I love the design on this. I love the animations.
Yeah, me too. Those like cutout faces are super cool.
Yeah,
And it tells 1,000 words right there.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think the quotes are really powerful. These are real people with real experiences, and you don't know until you know what other people are going through, and I think it does a good job of like lifting those stories and bringing them to light.
Huh.
And so like I think one other thing they could do is ask questions when they're doing it. So again, just another resource to use when we're considering advertising. That's all.
That's awesome. Thanks,
Very
man.
cool.
That's a really good share. Oh, all right. Let me see if I can start sharing as well. Yeah. I don't think I can actually. Hold on. How did I do this last week? I did this somehow.
I'm seeing harmonysquare.game.
Yeah, you guys
That's
are. I'm
through
not seeing
Skype,
it on
though,
the
yeah.
stream thing.
Okay.
That's okay. You know what? Here's what we'll do. We'll do this. A little bit of the old that. And okay. Okay. All right.
I was giving you a little razzle dazzle.
A little bit of the old, sure, why not? Okay. There we go. So Harmony Square, more accurately, breaking Harmony Square. This is a game for you guys to play in your spare time, to kind of teach you about disinformation and whatnot. Jake, I think, shared a game that was similar to this a long time ago, but it's really kind of a lot of fun. So basically, what's happening is you are hired as a chief disinformation officer. And what this does is it kind of allows you to go through, and your whole plan for this entire thing is to disrupt this town called Harmony Square. I do love the name Dr. Jazz, so I'm going to go with that. So basically, it goes through, there's like 4 separate chapters that kind of teach you. I'm just going to flip through real quick so you can kind of see. It teaches you different tactics for disinformation to kind of show how people can use different things to disrupt and kind of hijack the conversation of something. So for instance, Harmony Square Swan has escaped again. That's perfect. So how are we going to troll if we turn it into a heated debate? So let's write a post by saying, if you're pathetic enough to care about the stupid swan's well-being, you probably don't have any human friends, and rightfully so. Sweet. We got 106 likes on that. And now what's going to happen is that's going to start a whole conversation between people who agree with you, people who disagree with you, who then start fighting amongst themselves. And this is just like one aspect of it. But as you go through, all your choices matter. Your whole goal is to get as many likes as possible while completely destroying this poor town that was once perfect. And it's ridiculous and it's fun, but it's also terrifying when you realize like this is 100% what happens every single day on the internet. But at the same time, I think it's a really good tool to kind of enforce, like when you're sitting there and you're reading stuff on Facebook or on Twitter or something, and somebody says something so ridiculous, you can recognize it as the possibility of harmful trolling and know not to interact with it, and know to just ignore it, and somebody's just being a piece of shit. So definitely something fun to play with and good UX and sad.
I'm convinced.
content.
I'm anti-Swan.
I
are?
don't. I know Jake would. You're definitely anti-Swan. I mean, they don't fly that much, right?
Who are the asshole birds? Are those geese? Geese are the asshole birds. right?
Geese are the no,
Yeah,
but they're
I'm
nice.
anti-geese.
They let
Yeah,
you
but
know when
swans are
like
supposed
spring
to
is
be mean
coming.
too. They look nice, but they're like protective.
Support group for fragile losers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you
Yeah, this
basically get to like
I love the
pick
copywriting.
your responses to all this stuff. It's really it's ridiculous, but it's fun. So
It's
that's
all-
it for
it's
me
all too
today.
accurate.
Yeah.
I apologize in advance because this is probably going to tamper some of your productivity, but that's what we're here for.
Gonna tank my whole weekend. Just gonna be trolling people on Harmony
Cindy
Tour.
says Blue Jays are the meanest. Yeah, they're pretty
Yes,
rough.
Blue Jays are assholes.
No.
All right. Well, I think that does it for our Friday Big Bite. So, thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Mhm.
Sure, why not? And
Have
yeah,
a good weekend.
have a great weekend, great day. We'll see you guys shortly.
Cool beans. Ta-ta, y'all.
Ta-ta.